Come see us doing live shows. We'll be in Los Angeles, Honolulu, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and only jimmydore.com. So get this, they're bragging about how they squelched free speech and protest on college campuses, which are supposed to be the place that you encourage protests and civic engagement and protesting the establishment. That's what you think would happen. No, they're bragging. This is the New York Times. It says stricter rules and punishments over campus protests seem to be working. They can't. The establishment can't help but tell on themselves.
Huh.
University have seen just under 950 protests this semester compared to 3,000 in the spring. Ali Abunimah says, mission accomplished. The liberal establishment congratulates itself for crushing dissent against the Democratic Party-backed genocide in Palestine. Isn't that amazing? It's got to be a rewarding feeling knowing that the university you're funding out of your pocket is violently cracking down on your children. Gotta be. This is from the New York Times, how universities crack down on pro-Palestinian activism. Then, many of those students are now enrolling in the new exclusively Making Jewish Students Feel Safe course for lots of extra credit. Did you know that? Colleges and universities have tightened rules around protests, locked campus gates, handed down stricter punishment after the disruption of pro-Palestinian demonstrations and encampments last spring. The efforts seem to be working. Universities have said, so we did that. About 50 people have been arrested so far this school year at protests on higher education campuses, according to numbers gathered by the New York Times, compared to 3,000 last semester. Wow. So it's good to see that it's working in reducing the number of students that are protesting. What would be interesting is to compare side by side the number of students enrolling to study at your institution anymore. I wonder if enrollment is down. I'm just curious. And now, when students have protested this fall, administrators have often enforced to the letter new rules that were created in response to last spring's unrest. The moves have created scenes that would have been hard to imagine previously, particularly at universities that once celebrated their history of student activism. By the way, the celebrating of student activism typically happens in retrospect, long after the protests and the issues and the students that were protesting are over with, and they're no longer controversial. That's when they celebrate. That's when that happens, just so you know. Wow. So they're really doing stricter punishments. Wow. And at a place that the students are paying for. Isn't that wild? You're paying a place, and then they're locking you up and punishing the hell out of you. I wonder how many. Harvard temporarily banned dozens of students and faculty members from libraries after they participated in silent study-ins, where protesters sit at library tables with signs opposing the war in Gaza. Though a similar protest did not lead to discipline in December in 2023. But it is now. So you're paying to go to Harvard, and they're banning you from the library. Not only the students, but the faculty members for being silent. That's kind of amazing. At Indiana University, Bloomington, some students and faculty members who attended candlelight vigils were referred for discipline under a new prohibition on expressive activity after 11 p.m. Really? University of Pennsylvania administrators and campus police officers holding zip ties told vigilance. So they all got primed for this during COVID, I think. They were, those same people that are protesting are the same people who are cheering on people being censored from Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and forcing medical experiments on people. I guarantee you. University of Pennsylvania administrators and campus police officers holding zip ties told vigil attendees to move because they had not reserved the space in compliance with new rules. Wow. This is pretty authoritarian. This is in America. This is happening in America. Hey, what do you get when you mix a university administrator with a fascist? You get a university administrator. Isn't that nice? How could you be a student and feel good about going to these colleges? They say it's to keep us safe, but I think it's more to keep us under control. You think? The changes follow federal civil rights complaints, lawsuits, and withering congressional scrutiny accusing universities of tolerating anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. You know who wants to conflate those two? Anti-Semites and Israel and university administrators. Isn't it funny how the bigots conflate Zionism and Judaism, and so do the people enforcing this? That's weird. After some protesters praised Hamas and called for violence against Israelis. Oh, really? That's according to the New York Times, by the way. Because having a conscience is dangerous. It really is. And it's never more dangerous than it is these days. Some students and faculty have welcomed calmer campuses. Oh, they're glad for the fascism. Do you see that? Do you see that? That's what they see. There's always a big part of people who they welcome the authoritarianism, and that's what's happening. Others see the relative quiet as the bitter fruit of a crackdown on pro-Palestinian speech. I would be in that camp. They worry President-elect Donald Trump, who's a candidate called for universities to vanquish the radicals, could ratchet up the pressure. Ratchet it up? And so, in case you thought Donald Trump was going to fix all these things, he wants to vanquish the radicals, which means he's going to use crossbows and arrows like the sheriff in Nottingham. Come on. He's going to ratchet up the pressure? What are you going to get should he get a torture rack? What is he going to do? In many cases, universities are enforcing rules they adopted before the school year began. While the specifics vary, they generally impose limits on where and when protests can occur and what form they can take. Wow. They are not effing around. So now you're only allowed to protest in your shower, I think. Todd Wolfson, the president of the American Association of University Professors and an associate professor at media studies at Rutgers, said the restrictions have made people afraid. Well, that's what they're supposed to do, Todd. They feel like they're being watched and surveilled. You know why? Because they're being watched and surveilled, Todd. How could you be a professor of media studies and not know you're already being watched and surveilled? I think there's a strong degree of self-censorship that's taking place. You think? I like how he says, I think. Wow. If you don't know you're being watched and surveilled at this point, what are you doing as a professor in college? That's just look it up on your cell phone. Jewish students who felt targeted by protesters, oh, did they? They've praised the rules and the speed at which universities are enforcing them for helping to restore order and safety. That sounds very, Third Reich-like. It's about we will have order and safety. Freedom's supposed to be messy. That's the whole big part of freedom that they don't like. Freedom's messy. So is democracy. Naomi Lamb, the director of Hillel at The Ohio State University, said the school's new protest policies, they seem to be working well. You fascist. I appreciate the response of administrators to ensure that there is as little anti-Semitic action. These assholes are conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Lots of Jews are anti-Zionists. Wow. One thing we will not tolerate is people protesting a genocide. That is uncouth. Some of the tactics protesters used last semester have been met with stringent responses this school year. At the University of Minnesota, 11 people were arrested after they occupied a campus building. Last school year, some universities let protesters occupy buildings overnight and even for days at a time. At Pomona College, the president invoked extraordinary authority. At Pomona, that's right here. I've done comedy at Pomona College. At Pomona College, the president invoked extraordinary authority. Extraordinary authority. What a term on a college campus. I am exercising. I'm invoking extraordinary authority to bypass the standard disciplinary process and immediately suspend or ban some pro-Palestinian protesters who took over a building on October 7th of this year. A college spokeswoman said the unusual move was justified. Oh, I bet. Because the occupation had destroyed property, threatened safety, and disrupted classes, and noted that students were, you can't have classes disrupted when you're trying to stop a genocide. Wow. So, hey, we got to stomp out free speech. Free speech is like globally acknowledged at this point as something. Wow. Stamping out free speech. At some campuses, protesters have taken up new tactics to challenge the new restrictions. Study-ins, like those at Harvard, have also taken place at Ohio State, Tulane University, and University of Texas at Austin. Students typically wear keffiyehs. How do you say that? Keffiyehs and tape signs to their laptops with messages like, "Our tuition funds genocide." Yeah, maybe you should quit that college. I mean, I get it. I think it's great you're protesting. I'm with you on that. It's kind of designed to put the administration in this bind of either you ignore it or you enforce rules, but you look like kind of a jerk, said Jay Ulfelder, research project manager at Harvard's Nonviolent You look like kind of a jerk by stamping out freedom of speech? That doesn't make you kind of a jerk. My sushi chef, my favorite sushi chef being a crab, that makes him kind of a jerk. Stamping out free speech, it makes you a piece of shit fascist. Doesn't make you kind of a jerk. He's fucking... Hey, phew, now that that's over, the establishment can focus on truly important task of obliterating children into hundreds of pieces. Kamala Harris denounced despicable acts by unpatriotic protesters and dangerous hate-fueled rhetoric and complained about anti-Semitism, hate, and violence. Harris and other Democrats supported genocide. Yep. Student movements in the United States, let me read it over here. Student movements in the United States are almost always more active in the spring semester than in the fall. Let's wait till a full academic year has passed to see if protests went down due to the repression or it's just the common pattern of more activity in the spring. Now, I'm going to think it's because they're cracking down way harder. That's what I'm going to think. That's my guess. Anyway, there you go. Hooray. You did it. You cracked down. You made college an unhappy place to be. Come see us doing live shows. We'll be in Los Angeles, Honolulu, Baltimore, Atlantic City, Cohoes, New York, Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and only jimmydore.com.